Welcome to Thursday Thoughts, your weekly dose of real, honest conversation on all things personal growth. These are the chats Lucy and I love having every week over on Instagram. They're unfiltered, unedited, and always rooted in practical tools and a dose of inspiration. Let's dive in. So this morning we're talking about taking responsibility.
Yes.
And this one is always a good topic, I think, because it's so easy in life to just kind of place our responsibility with others, to kind of think, or with things. So, I mean, a classic, I think what we're talking about here is actually what are the excuses that we give ourselves for not doing things that we want to do is one part of it. So, for example, if you are making the excuse to yourself that I don't have enough time to go and work out, I don't have enough time to go and have that walk or that break, actually, at the end of the day, it's only you who could do the thing. So if you know what is good for you and you are constantly wanting to do that thing, but you are finding that you're not doing it because you are making excuses for yourself, this is a real invitation to start having a look at that. Are you taking responsibility for your own actions, or are you pushing that out to the fact that you don't have enough time, you don't have enough money, somebody else's fault somebody else has done X, Y, or Z? What is that? Because actually, at the end of the day, tough love here, no one's going to do it for you. Apparently, no one's doing it for you. Only we can do it. So maybe this one's going to be a bit of a tough one today.
Yeah, but no, I'm completely with you, love. And I think we're talking to ourselves here as well. I certainly have. And I think one thing to say is that I think what we're also talking about here is basically getting out of victim mode, because so often we sit in that place of, like you were saying, blaming something on the outside for our lives. And I think this is so key. And I absolutely used to sit in victim mode. I used to be that person, like, not so many years ago, where I always managed to kind of think, it's the fault of that, or it's the fault of that. It was never my fault. You know what I mean? And I just didn't take responsibility for my own life. And ultimately, this is what we're talking about. It's understanding, and it's taking accountability for your life. It's that classic thing of no one is coming to save you. You have to save yourself. And on the one hand, that feels like a lot of responsibility and a bit like, oh God. But on the other hand, it's actually incredibly freeing when you realize that you get to take responsibility. You get to take accountability for your own life. And I think so many of us have this habit of being a victim. And I still do it sometimes, just not as badly as I used to, but I definitely still can still find myself, getting into victim mode. And I think it's recognizing when you're doing that, when you are, again, blaming something, it's, well, like you say, I don't have enough time, or it's because I don't have enough money, and the reason for this is because of that, and my boss this or that or whatever. And when you just make the decision, because again, it is, we've talked about this before, it is about making a decision. In many ways, it is just about deciding to take back control of your life. That is how I see this. It's like taking control of your life and taking full responsibility, and not sitting in a place of, oh, well, the reason I am this, or the reason my life looks like this is because X, Y, or Z happened to me. I mean, we can all do that. We can tell ourselves stories from the past, and they keep us back. They hold us back. And only we can let that go, because ultimately we all go through shit. We all have stuff in our past that we could blame the way that we are on. And we do have a choice. We can either allow that story to define us as we move forward, or we can just go, no, I will not let this story define me. I'm not going to, I think I've mentioned this before, but with my audience, a good example of this could be if you've ended up not having kids by circumstance. For example, let's say you wanted them and you ended up not having them. of course you've got to grieve that. Of course you've got to kind of go through the emotions of that. But I find that some people tell that story and they're still telling it 5 years later, 10 years later. But I really wanted children, but this was how my life was supposed to look. And nobody said it was easy and nobody said it was fair, but we still get to take back our power, because when you're living in victim mode and when you're blaming everything on the outside for your life, then you are giving your power away. But when you make a choice to go, no, I will not let this define who I am in the future, then you're taking your power back, so.
Yes, absolutely. Anna, hello. She has said, I'm the queen of excuses and procrastination. I'm rubbish. Help. I don't blame anything and not in victim mode. I'm just rubbish. It's my fault, but always being my Achilles heel. How can I change? And gosh, we all can be, procrastination is my middle name sometimes, trying to avoid doing that uncomfortable thing or trying to do the thing which, you got to do. I think how we speak to ourselves and the language that we use is really, really important. I mean, as Lucy just said, I think firstly, you've got to make a decision, right? It's got to stop, recognize it, become aware of it. It sounds like you are and you're aware of it. So it's becoming aware of it and then just making that commitment to yourself, right? Come on. I have to do this with myself quite often. Stop faffing around. Only I can do this, and remind yourself of your why. Why do you want to do it? That's really key to give you that motivation that to do it. And then just think about the language, rather than I have to doing something, you get a choice. As Lucy just said, it's much more empowering to go, I get to do this, or I choose to do this. This is what I'm choosing to do. And the way that we speak to it, words have are really, really powerful, and it really can change the way that you feel about something. So that's what I try and do is it's like, oh God, I'm lucky I get to do this. And that can really help. I would always say also that, if you can talk about it, get an accountability buddy, that can really help you as well to say it out loud to somebody else, because then you don't want to let them down as well as you down. That can really help as well. But I think ultimately it really is about just deciding that you're taking responsibility, and it makes you feel good when you've been avoiding something, and then actually you do it, and it's never as bad when you actually do it than when you're just putting it off, because when you put it off, it just always seems to grow and get a little bit bigger and more, and so you avoid it even more. But when you actually do it, it's like, oh, it wasn't so bad. And I would also say that those tasks or those activities that feel hard and are the things that you are often putting off. Maybe it's a difficult conversation with someone you need to have, or just make that choice in the morning and don't even think about it. I would always say do the really hard things as early as possible in the day, because that is often when we have most energy. It's often, the time where you don't allow those stories to gather momentum over the day, and you can just go, right, I do it. I do try and do any of my most difficult tasks first in the morning. And then when you've done it, it gives you that little bit of like, wow, that bit of a dopamine hit of bit of joy, which is like, oh, I did it. And now I can do other hard things.
It just makes your whole day better, doesn't it? And also, one thing just to add to what you're saying, Polly, is like if you keep putting something off, or you keep not taking responsibility for something, what that also does is it chips away at your confidence. It chips away at the way that you feel about yourself. And that is not good. If you keep meaning to do something and then never doing it, you don't realize how subconsciously that is having a huge impact on the way that you feel about yourself, and your confidence in yourself. Is like one of the most important things we can do is to hold ourselves accountable and Because ultimately, if you do the things that you tell yourself you're going to do, then you build trust in yourself and you build confidence in yourself. And that helps in every area of your life. Whereas if you do the opposite and you keep not doing the thing, it just eats away at that. It eats away at that self-trust and it eats away at that self-confidence. And that's not a good feeling. So, but ultimately, when it comes to taking responsibility for yourself and your life, there is no one else who can do it apart from you. And sometimes if you are procrastinating, you just have to get to a point where you just say enough. And I've totally done this. I've done this with things in my life where I've got so sick of my own bullshit that I've got to a point where I'm like, Lucy, for fuck's sake, no, just no more. You're going to do the thing or what, whatever it may be. I think sometimes sometimes it takes you getting to a point where you're so sick of your own bullshit that then you decide to change. But we don't want to get to that point. Ideally because that's not a great place to get to. But again, I've absolutely been there where I've just been like, oh, for God's sake, I'm so sick of feeling bad about myself for not doing this thing that I'm just going to bloody do it. But yeah, no one is coming to save you apart from you. And yeah, that's kind of what we're saying, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I just being aware of how many times that you're saying out loud or to yourself, oh God, I really need to do X, Y, or Z. I mean, I hear it a lot from people. Oh, I really need to get in shape, or I really need to start working out, or I really need to lose a few pounds, whatever it is. And I must admit, I never have a huge amount of sympathy because it's like, well, just do it. Yeah. No one's going to do it. No one can do it for you. Only you can do it. So stop saying it and just take responsibility for yourself. And it doesn't have to be fast, big actions. Just start with, we've talked about habits and starting small, but start with the smallest step. And it does all matter. It all grows over time. But start now. There's no, and the other thing to be wary of is you're saying, oh, well, I will start when I come back from my holiday, or I'll start in September after this big work project, or I'll start when I've got a little bit more money, or I'll start when things are quieter. It never, ever, ever comes. That time never comes. You are just making excuses. Do it today. Do it now. There is never, ever a good time. And always you will feel better for it. You will always feel better for it. I mean, you have to make time. You have to make it a priority. We all have the same 24 hours in the day. It's what you prioritize. That is your responsibility, your decision. The busiest people in the world still manage to work out. They still manage to spend time with their family. They still manage these things because that's their priorities, and they can do everything else as well.
What you were saying also just really resonated with me with how you don't have much sympathy and I know exactly what you mean. Like, let's take, for example, somebody who is sick of their job and has been talking to you for 3 fucking years about how they're sick of their job. It's just like, no. Just, leave the goddamn job or stop talking about it, and it can be something like needing to leave a relationship. I mean, that's another really good example of something that, I've been in situations in relationships where I was like, I know this is over, but I can't quite bring myself to end it, to get to walk away from it. And yes, these things can be really hard, but if you're beating the same goddamn drum, like for a year, 2 years, 3 years, you have to get to a point where you realize that it is time to actually do something about this. I'm not saying it's easy. I think the job example is a really good one because how many of us have done this? Sat, moaned and complained about our job for years. Well, if you don't like your job, fucking change it. Do something about it. And no, it's not going to be easy necessarily, but it's also not easy sitting in a situation where you are miserable. It's not easy staying in a relationship where you're unhappy. It's also not easy to leave, but it's not easy to say. Choose your freaking hard. And I love that expression, choose your hard. Because either way, it's going to be hard. If you want to start exercising, that's going to be hard. But it's also hard to live with how you feel when you're not doing it. So choose your hard. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking Anna's just written, that's why I have no sympathy for myself. I know it's all on me. It must be deep psychological stuff. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It is all on us. And maybe there is a reason why you're avoiding. It's an avoidance tendency that so many of us have. We don't want to face up to what is right in front of us. But conversations like this, whatever you need, it can be a reminder to all of us that actually, what are we avoiding? And it's never ever, as we've said, it's never as hard as you think it is. And you can dread something, particularly if it's like leaving a job or having a really difficult conversation about something with someone. You can dread it and you can build it up to be this massive saga, this drama in your mind. And the longer you leave it, it kind of it grows and it gets bigger. But when you actually face it and you do it, how many times would you say to yourself, afterwards, oh my God, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It really wasn't. And so it really is just a reminder, just do it, just blooming do it, and it will feel so much better, and I'm just trying to think of times in my life where I've avoided something so much. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I think when I had my tuition business, actually, and I knew I did it for 6 years, and I knew at one point it just wasn't working for me, and I would dread it when I would have to kind of do all this really boring admin side to it, and it used to just make me feel like flat, heavy. And I probably did it for about 2 years too long, but I was doing it financially to keep money coming in so I could do something else. So there are certain times where you've got to sort of think about the reality of everyday life, and I get that. And I was doing something on the other end of it, which I really wanted to do. So I could see that there was an end in sight, but still it took quite a lot of courage to actually go, okay, enough is enough. I'm done with this, and take that leap and trust that it's all going to be okay. So it does. And we've talked about confidence and needing that little dose of courage. And I think particularly about with taking responsibility, again, we need that dose of courage to be able to do that. It's like you take that leap off the edge. Yeah, okay, it's going to be okay. I'm going to be all right. So yeah, that's a big part of it as well.
And ultimately, I think the truth is that only you can change your life. Only you can do the thing. No one can do it for you. And again, going back to what we were saying earlier, the longer you put something off or make excuses or blame something in the outside world, you're not actually doing yourself any favors. If you want to change something in your life, you have to do it. You have to take responsibility. No one is coming to save you, and it is as simple as that. And I mean, I'm just looking at Anna's other comment here. I think it's a form of self-punishment. I know I want to do the thing, but I don't do it. So I have something to beat myself up about. Well, I mean, that is something to look at. And also, is that a story that you keep telling yourself? Or can you actually, do the thing and stop beating yourself up? Because what's that going to achieve? And I think, many of us can probably relate to this on some level. We can, I can certainly be a little bit self-destructive sometimes. But it's a question of realizing that you're doing that. And when you realize, then you've got to change it. Otherwise, you just have to accept it. If you're happy to live like that, then okay, fine. But that's not a great way. That's not a great way to live. And it's never too late. And each day we get fresh starts. So I think it's just really worth recognizing where you are living in victim mode. Where are you sitting in a story that you've been telling yourself for years? The first step is awareness that you are doing it. And the second step is actually doing something to change that. And it's not easy, but again, it's like choose your heart, and whatever path you take in life, there are always going to be hard bits. But it's just a question of which hard do you want to choose? I think that is really key. And I love asking myself that question because it kind of makes you go, actually, yeah, that's a good point. Like if I don't do this, then okay, I'm not going to have to do the hard thing. Like going back to the job example, well, it's going to be really hard to find another job and it's going to take a lot of courage to leave this job that I hate. Da, 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 da. But guess what? It's also going to be really hard to stay in this job that I've hated for the last 5 years. You know, choose your hard.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking also about exercise, which I think is a big one, which people, don't take responsibility for, because again, it's the story of, oh, well, I can never stick to it. I've never been someone who can stick to it. Again, those are all stories. It's like, catch yourself there. You can change. You can change. And you've just got to make that choice. Maybe you have been someone who's never been able to stick to anything. Maybe you are someone who always falls off the wagon in whatever you do. Maybe you are someone who hates exercising, but at the same time, it's something that you really need to do for your health, for your wellness moving forward so that you can age well. So you can change that.
Yeah.
Drop those stories. Drop the stories. They don't have to stay with you forevermore. They are not you. That's the beauty of life, of living, is that we get to decide who we want to be. You choose. And that is so incredibly empowering that we really have the opportunity to change. Yeah. So leave that behind. It does take a bit of practice. You are going to have to constantly remind yourself because you're going to be so stuck in the old way of thinking, of doing, and that is so ingrained in you and your neural pathways that every time you show up for yourself and do the thing, you're going to be rewiring your neural pathways and you're going to be becoming the person who does stick to things, who does exercise. It is totally and utterly possible. So,
totally.
Yeah, just do it. Just do it, as Nike would say.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I think we're nearly done.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Yeah, let's do it. I think we've covered everything today. And as last comment, it's only certain things I put off, other things I'm brilliant at, and do them without thinking. Yeah, well, I think we can all relate to that. So it's just really honing in on those things that you put off, and how can you find a way to just do it. Maybe today, just start by saying, okay, well, I'm going to do those things. I'm going to change how I approach those things. As simple as that, really.
Happy. All right.
All right.
We'll be back next week.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.